Stories Podcast, your number one show for everything guitar.
Hello, everybody. We are live. It is episode number 76 of the Guitar Stories Podcast. I'm Andy Ferris, and I'm here with Dr. Dan. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Andy. Hello, everyone out there. Tonight I'm streaming not from the showroom because I'm at home. This is the green room, basically. Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
What did you say? You pointed at something earlier and said, "Can I see that?" Was it something important?
There. It's the
I just see your
children's
arm.
piano. You only see my arm?
Oh, yes, the children's piano from last episode. It's not so much more than a children's piano.
It's so much. It's actually a pick of the week winner.
It is.
Right?
we should get those stickers printed. I'm sure brands and products would love to have pick of the week stickers. Along with those 5-star reviews from wherever and whomever.
That would be lovely, yeah.
I'm back in Austria. We're in separate rooms. So last week we were in the same room in your lovely showroom, and now I'm far away, which is sad but also happy.
Yeah, it was a great time.
In the same room. It was a great show, I believe. I haven't listened to it back, but I believe there were great parts, and Jem was a great guest.
Yeah.
And we have another great guest tonight. We have Mr. Warren Huart, all the way from Los Angeles. He's going to tune in with us in a little bit. Yeah. And Warren says he can hear a delay of the conversation going on. Maybe, Warren, you've got your YouTube viewing thing open as well, so you need to mute the video. Hopefully that works. I mean, Warren's got a huge team. I'm sure they'll fix that for him. Also, it's the first time I'm seeing a private chat in this restream thing that we used to do the podcast. The first time someone's used that in quite a while. It scared me. What is that popping up in my face?
Someone talking to you, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got some guitar news, some quite big guitar news that I've been dying to talk to you about for about 4 days now, Dan. Then we'll do gear picks, and then we'll, of course, talk to the man himself, Warren. I don't know if we have any kind of introduction for Warren, because does he need one?
No, I think he's one of the guests that basically should be known like everywhere in our circles, right? I mean,
I believe so.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't even know that he was living in LA. I thought he's like, I don't know, somewhere in the UK, but knowing that he lives in California, and yeah, I mean, knowing his big, like, his body of work is just incredible. And I think he also a couple of years ago received the NAMM award, the tech award for the website and all that stuff. So we can talk about that later. I think he's one of the most renowned people in our industry. And he's also a guitar player. And he had a guitar in his hand shortly before we kicked him out for the introduction. So
he's actually a really good guitar player. He's frustratingly good. One of those people that probably doesn't practice, was just really good.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'll find out in a minute.
Probably sings like an angel and plays guitar like Van Halen or Eddie Munson.
Oh, nice. That's a name that we should drop early on in the show.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, spoilers. If you haven't seen Stranger Things, we're going to talk about Stranger Things in this show. That's the thing that I've been dying to talk to Dan about. So I guess without further faffing around and further ado, we should bring in Mr. Warren Huart. So here he is, everybody. Warren Huart. Hello, Warren.
Hey! Oh, you're very, very kind, saying all those nice things about me.
You are very welcome.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and I am playing guitar. And if only it was just a natural gift. No, it's not. I do play actually every day. When I'm sitting just doing emails, or probably even annoyingly when I'm talking to you, I'm just sitting there going, usually with the volume down, but I love just doing finger exercises, doing all these kind of.
Okay, so crazy spider and everything. That's your.
Well, I do these spider stretches where I go down chromatically in fours. I do like a. And then I'll just move down and down the neck till I've got the massive stretch at the end. So every finger is two apart. I haven't done. I haven't shown that one yet. I've been showing the simpler ones that in videos. But no, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sort of an obsessional kind of. I like learning. I'm always learning.
Absolutely.
You-
Warren, before
Yeah,
we continue, your audio is a little bit crackly on my side. Is anyone else experiencing that crackly audio?
It's the same. It's the same. Yeah, it's different.
crackly. Are you listening, Eric?
Yeah,
It says the audio is crackly.
It sounds like a bitrate issue.
Sounds like a bit rate issue. No, it sounds like. Can
Is
you
anybody in the
just
chat
plug in and
experience-
listen?
Okay, so yeah, the people in the chat are also hearing you. Sadly, on the stream, it's not going too smoothly.
You need to listen to from the stream itself.
It was fine, of course.
Well, the-
Guitar Stories podcast, legends. That is fine before we pressed go live.
Yeah, correct.
How does it sound on our end?
I'm not hearing it from there. 'Cause
We're not hearing it from our. We're not hearing it being sent to you that way.
yeah.
Okay.
What I would
So-
suggest, Warren, is coming out of the show, like refreshing or going and using the Chrome browser, because I think an hour and a half of you crackling would be a bit off-brand, should we say? Yeah. So, do you want to jump out for a second and refresh the page and come back in? That normally fixes it for us.
Yeah.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It's cursed, right? But right before the show, we tried everything, and everything went smoothly because with a new setting, especially on my side, and with Warren as a producing pro, you want to be sure that you at least bring the A- game. But
At least the
funny.
A- game.
Yeah, at least the A- game, but that's hilarious. But that's just how it goes, and you never know what's going to happen when you're streaming live, right?
No, and that is part of the fun and part of the stress and the flop sweats. And when we finish a show, sometimes I'm exhausted just from hope, just from hope exhaustion. Right, he's back. Let's see if he comes back in. Oh, he's on his other little camera.
Okay.
Um,
But we
he's gonna
can
select-
hear you. Yeah.
Can't hear you just yet, so I'm going to just boot him back off while he sorts his audio settings and video settings out. He just needs suspense. I know he's creating drama. That's what it is.
Yeah,
I'd do the same thing if I was on his show.
No.
Apparently, Dan, we are streaming on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, The Guitar Geek, this my channel, and also a Produce Like a Pro's channel. I don't know if someone behind the scenes has done this.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, we could be streaming to thousands and thousands of people right now. We don't know. But I can tell you we're streaming to 50 beautiful people here on the Guitar Geek channel.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you told me that there's a birthday girl around. Is she around already?
I don't know if she's in the chat, but it's Amanda's birthday.
yeah,
So we want to say hi because she helps moderate the channel and helps look after us.
Yeah.
Let's get Warren back in. Hang on. Yeah, Dan, tell us about your week while I converse with Warren in the chat.
Of course. I had a lovely week. We had a little beer fest here, so so I'm currently just jumping from beer fest to beer fest, and yeah, basically, like I said last week with Jen and Andy around, that was pretty cool, but also a little bit exhausting. And I didn't even get to try the Beatronics, the pedal that Andy brought. We had all the guitars sitting around and all the pedals and all the amps. At the end of the day, we just went straight to bed, right? I remember Andy sent me a message about him in the shower, just letting me know that he's refreshed now and going to bed. And I felt the same. It was just
it was a big one, wasn't it? It was
busy.
so much fun.
Yeah. Speaking of a special one, shall we sing a little bit for Amanda?
I'd love to. That would be amazing. But I don't know if she's here though, Dan. We should. Is she here? I don't believe she's here.
Do you think
But it would be a
she
nice
will
surprise
join on her
if she
birthday?
listens back. Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
So
I love it. I love it. Good.
Let's try and get
Birthday
Warren
song.
back in, shall
Okay.
we?
Yep.
And then if Amanda joins at some point, we will absolutely sing her happy birthday. So Echo is good. Right.
Sweet.
Let's bring in Mr. Warren Hewitt one more time. Warren,
Is
are
it
you
better
there?
now? Is
Oh,
it better now?
beautiful.
Excellent.
Much beautifuler-ist.
So all we did was go from Safari to Chrome. So is this the Mac PC wars? Is that what we're in the middle of?
Probably. But now
Warren,
at least
we have no idea.
now
It's
audio
a
fits.
crapshoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mac PC. Let's not open that discussion up.
No, we could do guitar and bass if you fancy it.
I'd rather do guitar and bass than Mac and PC awards. Yes.
So Warren,
would be much
welcome
more
to the
preferable.
show. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a very, very busy man. Sehr beschäftigt,
Like
as you might
yourselves.
say.
What is Dr. Dan a doctor of?
International management. So
International management.
correct? No.
So you have there is such a thing as a PhD in international management.
Obviously, yeah. So,
Congratulations.
yeah. Actually, my thesis was about culture and corruption. So I was calculating cultural
Culture and corruption.
discrepancies and correlated them to see if there are certain cultural dimensions that correlate with corrupt behaviors. Yeah, and that was pretty intriguing
Wow.
to determine factors that create a tendency of people coping with whatever they have to deal with, but acting highly corrupt because they just they struggle with something, like uncertainty avoidance, for instance. If you're a person that cannot deal uncertainty avoidance and you're pressured into a situation, let's say you don't get a permission to build your house or something unless you bribe an official, then it's highly likely that people will act corrupt even if their personal values do not reflect that. Yeah, highly interesting.
Actually, I do find it highly interesting. I'm sure that's we can carry this off air. Andy's sitting there cringing at the moment, going, "What are you guys talking about?"
No, I'm reading the comments. People are asking if they can read Dan's thesis somewhere.
Yeah, please send it over.
Unfortunately, it's in German, but there are a couple papers out. I can post them somewhere.
I'd like that. I'd like that very much.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into guitar news before we move on to gear and chatting with Warren. And if you have any questions for Warren, if you're watching live or listening live somehow, then keep them for just a little bit later. But Dan, Stranger Things. Spoiler alert for the second time.
Yep.
I sent you a message a few weeks ago where I predicted that I thought the guitar might be heavily involved in the final episode.
Yep.
Due to the music being the thing that saves people.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember what I wrote, but it was something like, I don't know. Is anyone here a Kate Bush fan by any chance?
Are you asking me? I've only mentioned Kate Bush in like it's usually either Queen or Kate Bush in that order generally. But yeah, I mean, Hounds of Love I've talked about like 10,000 times when it comes to videos. And we did an episode on Wuthering Heights over a year ago, which has got like 500,000 views. We did put up a Hounds of Love episode last week. I will say though, we were like late to the party. I wanted to do a really good video, so I just didn't want to do one of those kind of like streaming in, read the Wikipedia page kind of thing that everybody else did, to be really blunt. So we got the original drummer who played on the album. We got one of the two engineers and the guy that mixed the album and interviewed them. The video is doing okay, but not as well as if we jumped in like the day that went to number one and everything. But I don't know, that's sort of our philosophy anyway. I'd rather have quality over quantity and all that stuff. I'm a huge fan. Good.
So this week, guitar might be brought back. Well, it was brought back into the zeitgeist, into the main media by Eddie Munson, the character playing a BC Rich on the, let me get this right, on the roof of a caravan in the Upside Down.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Which attracted a bunch of vampire bat-like creatures. Which,
why
when I
wouldn't
say it
it?
out loud, sounds super weird, but made sense in context. Yeah, I remember, Dan, you wrote me about the BC Rich months and months ago when it was announced.
Yep.
And we were a bit disappointed by the short amount of airtime it got in the first episode.
Yep.
And then I remember writing to you, said, I think guitar is going to be in the last episode. I think that someone's going to have to use music with the guitar to do something. I wasn't exactly sure what it was.
Well, you were pretty close. I think they kind of dropped the ball a little bit too early because when I figured out that the two models they offer, they kind of reflect the Upside Down in the real world. That's genius. But the guitar being kind of released, I think even before the episode aired, that kind of took away a little bit from it, but still one of the greatest scenes. And we just found out that Metallica's bass player Robert Trujillo's son Ty actually played some updated lead parts on that, which is pretty wicked. I mean, he's probably more qualified to do that than few others.
Absolutely. There's also the hand double that played in part for the actor that plays Eddie. And I've reached out to him. His name's Aidan, and see if we can get him on the show at some point. It would be great.
Okay.
I'd love to talk to him about his experiences. But hang on. So when he played the guitar in the real world, is that a different guitar to the one that was in the Upside Down? Did it look different?
I don't know. I was thinking it's like because they have the crackled one and the black one that they were using these. Like, I could be wrong. It could be that they were both black, but either way, it was still a pretty cool scene. And how do you felt? Shall we already talk about the finale? And is that something that Warren can relate to? Did you check out Stranger Things? That's something that floats your boat?
Absolutely. I mean, Andy and I were talking about this being a possibility to talk about. What's been interesting is when I put the Kate Bush one up, everybody sort of made this assumption that not everybody, but a lot of people made this assumption that just getting featured in an episode of a TV show makes it a hit. Mm-hmm. And I have very, very strong opinions about that. No, the song has to be a hit. You know what I mean? It's people are now saying, "Oh, Master of Puppets is back in the charts because of Stranger Things." Yes, it is, but it's also a freaking amazing song. Mm-hmm. As is Running Up the Hill. There's lots of songs that get featured in lots of huge shows, but they have to be really, really good to connect. But it has been interesting, sort of like navigating those comments. I suppose people always want to have a reason why,
Right. So
simple explanation.
Diminishing the artistry, I think, is what I'm trying to imply. Like it diminishes the artistry. Like it was just some lucky thing that song was chosen. I mean, Running Up That Hill is a masterpiece, as so is, of course, Master of Puppets. Both incredible songs, and I think that there's no accident. I think when you're choosing a song to be in a TV show, you're going to make sure it's an amazing song, but you're also going to choose a really famous, very successful song as well, if you can get clearance on it, because it will also help your TV show. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything's feeding.
Absolutely. It's kind of like when Wayne's World used Bohemian Rhapsody, and Queen were on a bit of a slum at that point in their career. They weren't exactly in the charts, and then it went right back up there again. Bohemian Rhapsody is an amazing piece of music, so it wouldn't happen with just any old ditty.
Yeah, exactly. And Queen hadn't diminished in the rest of the world, their success. They were still selling millions and millions of albums every year. But in America, they'd had a bit of a backlash, from certain TV. MTV pulled I Want to Break Free. They were dressed in drag, which is just hilarious. Consider where. No, you didn't know that? I did some research on it, and it's pretty hilarious. Because they were like, "Oh, we can't have men dressed as women on mainstream TV," and so they just stopped supporting the band. And God bless Mike Myers, who of course is Canadian, where Queen didn't lose any momentum and was still huge. Put the song in the movie, and yes, the rest is history. It rejuvenated their career in the US. But we could go on many tangents here, Andy. You're going to have to control.
I mean, the show's only an hour and a half. But back to Eddie Munson. I just put the shot on screen just to show him. Absolutely, I don't know. It's one of the guy that played the hand double says it's one of the most iconic scenes in guitar TV, and I hope that is true. I hope that's true. But my favorite part, if you haven't seen Stranger Things, then we're going to stop talking about it in a moment. But the favorite part is when he's in the Upside Down and he puts the guitar on and then does that with the strap and the guitar. And I can't remember what he says, but the way he just arms himself with the guitar, I'm like, oh, dude, that is cool.
Especially with guitar as edgy as a BC Rich, right?
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
And we can actually buy them. I think the custom shops were around $3,000, Dan, $4,000, and the standard is about $899. So technically that should have been a pick of the week. Darn it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Oh well, it's an honorary
Honorary
special Eddie
mention?
Munson
Yeah.
mention. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, as I've said, pick of the week, we should choose and talk about our gear picks of the week. Warren will be a gentlefolk. Would you like to go first, or second, or third?
I don't know. Toss a coin and tell me. You're the boss.
Okay,
You're the boss.
I've got a penny from 1929 here, so I will toss it, and you call it. Heads or tails, Warren?
You remember the old kids joke? Heads I win, tails you lose.
Yeah.
I'll go with tails.
It is tails, so you get to choose.
I'll go second.
Okay,
right.
then I will go first. How's that, Dan? I'm going to go be rude just because my
like a plan.
general's there. So it's time for my pick of the week.
Andy's pick of the week.
My pick of the week this week is kind of like a guitar. It's like a guitar, but it's not a guitar. It's a bass guitar.
No.
But it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's from Baum Guitars, and it is the signature bass from the bass player from the Gorillaz, which it looks like this. And sorry, I'm going to get myself out of the way for a moment, Warren. There we go. It looks like this. It's called the Thunder Bass from Shea Adelakan. I think I'm pronouncing his name right there, but he's the Gorillaz bassist, and it's bright pink. It's got a matching pink headstock with gold hardware.
That's sexy.
The promo shots are just pink everywhere, and I think Baum Guitars have knocked it out of the park, and they've done some really great promo.
That amp.
Yeah, it's got one pickup, master tone, master volume. It's got a white lightning stripe or strike through it as a pick guard.
That's pretty sexy.
And there's some great stuff on the Baum Guitars website to hear it and see the interview with Shay. But yeah, it absolutely rocks my world. And you know the rules of the picks of the week is that whatever excites you the most in the past 7 days, and for some reason this week it's a bass.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a little look in the chat, see if I'm getting any bass hate.
Why would people hate it with that bass?
Bass hate for talking about a bass?
Yeah, you know, we're guilty for that as
good.
well. Make a couple jokes every now and then. Yeah.
Oh. No, it's absolutely
It's low-hanging fruit.
It's gorgeous. I mean, he's an incredible musician. So one of my childhood friends is Matt Butcher, and Matt is been with Blur Gorillaz since like the very early 90s. So he does front of house for them, and pretty much he's an incredible live sound man. Have you guys ever seen the Gorillaz live?
Nope, unfortunately not.
I've seen Blur live.
Well, I mean, if you've seen Blur live, I mean, it's one of the best sounding shows you ever see. And Gorillaz live is just ridiculous. I can't remember. Matt told me there's like 40 open mics at any one time on stage, because you know it's the Gorillaz, so they have like drummer, percussions, background singers, Damon walking around picking up acoustic guitars, ukuleles, playing pianos, toy pianos, whatever he wants to do at any time. You know, live guitar, live bass, everything. All these open mics going on all the time, and the mix is insane. Plus all the track stuff, all of the MPC stuff, everything that they do. It's an insane show. Plus visually, of course, of all the cartoons and all everything that they do. And I absolutely love bass playing. Yeah, I chatted with him a little while ago, and I want to interview him because I'm a huge fan of his bass playing, and I actually always think of him as playing Eastwood. So it's good for guitars to have got in there and done something, because he plays those Eastwood basses live up until this point.
Right.
And so this is very, very cool indeed.
Well, Baum Guitars also have guitars. They have one called the Wingman, and that is also phenomenal. So
is that based on that as well? Is it?
There
It's
is a
based
there
on
is a
that,
bass.
right? Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I get it.
yeah. See,
Yeah. So my pick of the week is a bass. So
sweet.
I'm feeling pretty confident this week that I might have the best pick.
What kind of pickups is he using? Is that some sort of active pickups or just like a? No,
I'm not
probably
exactly
not,
sure.
right?
I know that he wanted to keep it simple
Okay.
and let the instrument, the sound come from the player, according to the stuff that he's written online about it. And there's an interview on YouTube with him. But yeah,
Everybody should follow him on Instagram. His Instagram's fantastic. It's really, really cool. He's also one of the most, I'm trying to get it in focus, one of the most stylish musicians ever in the history of stylish. I mean, ridiculous. That pink suit isn't for the bass. That's how he dresses. It's ridiculously cool looking. I still love our rock stars that are rock stars. You know what I mean? As
Yeah,
much as I love
absolutely.
grunge and everything, I want a rock star to be a rock star, and
Yeah.
he's definitely one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and the bass
Okay,
just
well-
looks like it's an extension of his personality. You know, he's wearing all that
Exactly,
stuff
yeah.
these days.
And I see here that going back to early May, he's playing it on stage. So it's the real
Nice.
deal. It's not a. Quite often, we all know these sponsorship deals. Quite often, as somebody has a guitar ready made and say, "You want to put your name on it?" I
Mhm.
doubt this is one of those situations. I'm sure he had a lot
Big
to
question.
do with it.
Big question to me is that like a production model? Because I was reading that it's custom built in the custom shop, and
Good question. Andy?
in Denmark.
I could answer that question, but I'm not allowed.
You're not
You're
allowed
not
to tell
allowed to
us.
say yes or no.
I don't know. I don't want to spill. I don't want to spill any beans. But
All right,
I would
cool.
say that if someone were to want to purchase one, that could be possible at some point.
All right. Well, on the website it says get your own thunder. So if you're interested in having a personally signed bass, sign up for a newsletter, and I think they'll drop it at some point in 2022.
I'm sure they're
Yeah.
going to want to sell it to people. Of course, that would be a silly move. Here's a bass that you can't buy. That's a
Yeah.
ridiculous move.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually,
Well,
they-
that was received a lot better than I expected.
Yeah.
I was
Good pick.
I was yeah.
Solid.
It's a win-win. I mean, it's a great bass player, great guy, totally stylish, really cool, stylish looking bass. What's not to love? I think you hit it out of the park. And what's so funny is that my suggestion you wanted to do as well, and this suggestion I would like to have done as well. So either Andy and I are the same person, or we just have exactly the same taste. I don't know what's going on. We're both huge Queen fans as well. So
There you
Well,
go.
also Dan's pick is something that was very close. Had I not already seen the bass, I probably would have. It's hard for me this week. There's not been that much gear out, but
Good gear out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Warren, you wanted to go
Yep.
second.
What-
Is that correct?
yes, I thought I'd eeny, meeny, miny, and mow it and stick it in the middle. Yes. So yeah. So for me, it's something we're really super excited about, and obviously, I'm a guitar player first, and then an engineer, then a producer. I suppose a songwriter actually second. But I really, really like the Audient Evo range a lot. We demoed the Evo 16 a couple of weeks ago. Oh, look at you! You're so on top of it. Look at that.
You're welcome.
And it's some of the best stuff we've ever recorded with the inexpensive stuff. Because really, the way I do reviews is there's you can go and read great online reviews at Sound on Sound and other such wonderful magazines as Sound on Sound. It's an incredible magazine. Go there and get all the specs and all that stuff. The bit that I do, which is all I know how to do, is plug it in and use it. And so we just plugged it in and used it and recorded a song. And I don't want them to stop selling their ID range because it's absolutely amazing. And the mic pre's that are in it are the same ones they put in their consoles. So I don't want to take anything away from their more expensive range. But Audience Evo range, that sounded like a record to me. And it's a fraction of the cost. How much is it? Isn't it $500? 500.
It's about $500.
euros?
Yeah, it's I was so shocked when I saw the price.
Yeah, for an 8-input unit.
I'm actually
ridiculous.
using the Evo
There's-
4 right now. So the Evo 4 is set right here. That's how you're hearing me.
Yeah, we do all of our videos with an ID44, but we take the Evo with us when we go and record in other places.
Okay, the
Crazy.
Evo 8. That's the one you use, right?
Yeah, the 4 we have them all now, the 4, the 8, and the 16, depending on how many inputs we need to places. It's
Oh, this is-
just It's
Wow.
super clean. I don't know what they do with those mic pre's. They just sound good.
Cool.
It's a whole different world, isn't it?
yeah.
When we were kids, demos were demos, weren't they? They were demos. They were like dreadful. You know, you had your 4-track cassette, or you had your early kind of computer stuff, and everything just sounded, you know, there was a difference. You go to a quote unquote real studio, or you did a demo. Now it's just really how creative are you, and how good are you at producing? You know, how good are you actually at, you know, making good choices and arrangement and stuff like that? Because now the equipment is for a couple of grand. You know, between our mutual love of like a Lewitt microphone and Audient, you know, the Audient ID or Evo, really the rest of it's up to you. It's up to the person producing. It's got nothing to do with the gear anymore. It's ridiculous.
No, there's no excuses.
No.
In that case, Warren, a question: what's the difference like between the ID range and the Evo range? Evo is obviously more affordable, but they don't seem to be cutting any corners. So rather than specs,
I asked
like,
Andy
the
about
experience.
Yeah, I asked our mutual friend Andy about it, who's, as you know, he's like, I think he's head of marketing, but he's also like head of development, either written title or not. And he told me that, you know, the mic pre's in the ID are the same as in the console. They have to, like, you know, depending on the budget, they have to maybe remove some kind of basic stuff, but it's essentially the same as the console. But for the Evo range, in order for them to do the smart gain, which is their version of what people call auto gain, they had to redesign it. They couldn't literally use the same mic pre because there was no way to digitally control that mic pre because it's a fully analog one. So they did have to design it. And I got him to pretty much admit, as far as they're concerned, it's as good a mic pre, but it's a digitally controlled mic pre. And because I said to him, gun to my head, I like both of them just equally. It's like, and yet one is considerably cheaper. So not trying to undercut themselves because both are amazing, but by being forced to redo something, they really did an incredible job. It's so quiet. And Julian, Klauser, Krauser, sorry. I have too many German friends, either Krauser or Klauser. He tested them and they come up in the top 3 of all interfaces for signal to noise ratio as being one of the quietest. Consistently, wow. Evo and the Audient ID range, and him, he buys the use. He doesn't take any money from anybody. So his reviews are 100% honest. And I love the fact that the stuff that I love is the stuff that he digitally proves as being some of the best. God bless him.
I think it's a great pick, Warren. 459 euros for that. It's nuts.
Ridiculous. And I know that you wanted to pick it as well. So
I did. It was tough this week. But thank you for playing the game. We've got one left, and that's from Dr. Dan. So we get to hear his little jingle there.
Dance, pick up the week. Dance, pick up the week.
Yeah, there you are, Warren. There's some music for you.
If I'd known, I could have written my own little intro.
Oh yeah, I should have let you. Well, we'll have you back on, and just for just for the excuse of having another jingle. Dan, your pick of the week, sir. What is it? Oh, I'm not hearing you, Dan. You're talking, and we're not getting any audio.
Whoop! There you go. All right, I just had an issue with mic. Now I'm back again. Yeah, probably it's a little bit more traditional pick, or more, what people would expect, but still with a little twist to the ordinary. And I was picking the new Blue Paisley Acoustasonic that Fender Japan has released. And obviously, with the Acoustasonic, it's either hit or miss for a couple people. But with the Paisley and with the blue, and with the nice contrast to the wooden body, it just felt. I just gravitated towards it. And frankly, if I was to buy an Acoustasonic, I would definitely pick this one, because I'm just a sucker for Paisley patterns. The flower kind of thingy is not necessarily my cup of tea, but the Paisley one is pretty cool. And especially knowing that these are Japan exclusives make them a little bit more special. So yeah,
I think you're both like my twins, because I'm the guy. I did a whole Acoustasonics video on the Strat, which is in the house. I should have run off and grabbed it if I know you were going to talk about it. I was playing it before this call. I absolutely love those guitars. It's funny because everybody that gives them hate has never actually played one. They're all like, I heard this and I heard that. It's like, play the bleeding thing. It's amazing. It plays like a Strat. It plays exactly what you want it to be, like a Strat that's an acoustic guitar. That the sounds in it are phenomenal, and it actually mics up really well. If you want that acoustic sound that's just going to shimmer in the track without any body on it, without any low mid build up and stuff, just stick a mic on it, and it's instantly. It just sounds like the perfect acoustic guitar for a dense track. Yeah, I love those guitars.
Yeah,
a lot of
the
jazz
Jazz
guys play.
Master. I have the Jazz Master in white, and I have the Mexican player Telly in Sunburst, and they are two of my favorite instruments to pick up and just make music with. But neither of those guitars are as cool as this Paisley Japan exclusive.
The psychedelic is red, and actually these are made in Japan, which makes it even more interesting because now we have US made Acoustasonics, we have the Mexican made, and now we have also the made in Japan ones. So I wonder what they will sit price wise as well.
I was about to say, is it like the US, Japanese, and then the Mexican ones? What's the price differential?
I mean, I haven't.
Americans are around 1,000 in euros now, 1,700, 1,800, and the Mexican ones are around 1,100. So, and then regarding the Paisley, Dan, did you get a price on the Japan exclusives?
No, but knowing that where the prices for the Strats and the Tellys sit, usually the Boxer series sits right in between the Made in Mexico stuff and the American standards. So I would assume something around like 1,400-1,500. So a little bit below the American made ones. Yeah.
I love Fender Japan so much.
Yeah. I
love the quirky stuff. They did the katana and all that. They just do amazingly slightly off the wall designs, and I hate that it's Japan exclusive, but I respect it.
Yeah. To me personally, sorry.
No. I please.
Yeah, if I had to pick like between the three body shapes, I would have loved the Jazzmaster in psychedelic finish.
Definitely,
it would have been the pinnacle of Acoustasonic design.
What have you got there, Warren?
I've got my Acoustasonic Strat.
Sweet.
And which I think I was playing when we were talking earlier.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah,
and,
it's just so it's gorgeous. I've spoken to a lot of jazz guitar players recently, and all of them use these because it feels like an archtop kind of thing, because you've got that response, so it's ridiculous, so and it's super slinky, so you can just whiz around on it, and yet it feels so satisfying. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I love like thin lines. I like 335s. I like guitars that you can just feel a little bit of extra vibration. That's why I'm really digging the Rev Star, because they've chambered them now, and they just have that extra kind of feel when you're holding it. Just like it's just satisfying. I never was a Strat fan. I was always a Telecaster fan. I was never actually a Strat fan because I didn't quite feel the resonance. But give me a chamber guitar or in this instance, the Acoustasonics, I'm very, very happy. Yeah.
Sweet.
We're hearing in the chat that it's around 330,000 yen on Japan's site. Thank you, Valeria. Which is around $2,400 US.
Whoa. Okay.
So it might be a little bit more than even the American one.
Okay. But no, wait. 230,000 yen.
Okay.
That's like 1/6.
300.
300. Okay, well that's much more. Yeah. That's like 2.4 ish. Yeah. Well,
thank you for the comment
Warren.
about Joe Pass. I am a huge Joe Pass fan. Who's that? Bruno. Hey, Bruno. Oh, Bruno's an Academy member. Hey, Bruno. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Joe Pass. The Virtuoso album is one of the greatest albums ever made. Brought me to tears when I was a kid. I was just like, you can play guitar like this? And then my dad would play me Joe Pass and Ella Fitzgerald. I don't know if you guys have ever heard those live records. Insane.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine those two, just live, that he's supporting her incredible voice with just a 6-string 175 through a little Fender amp. Or imagine, I think he used a Gibson amp. It's ridiculous.
Sweet.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear that even as a young boy, you were already appreciating that kind of music. Because last week we talked about that as a recipient or as a listener, you got to be ready for music. You know, at some point in my life, I wouldn't connect to Jimi Hendrix, or I wouldn't connect to the Police, or to jazz in general, or to George Benson. But then gradually you develop some sort of ear. You develop a different style, and you just appreciate stuff that you would never have appreciated a couple of years ago. So why is that? Why were you already so appreciative about that kind of?
Because I grew up in a very traditional kind of. My dad was a painter and a sculptor. And so it was all very ridiculously heavy arts based, so the only music we listened to was classical music and jazz.
Okay.
So I got, Annie knows this. It was for my 7th. I was 7 years old, and my dad bought me a night at the opera. So, and he gave it to me as a Christmas present and said, "This is worthy. Like to listen to this because it fits in with the stuff." I mean, I was going to Covent Garden at like 9 or 10 years old, seeing Mozart and Verdi and Puccini and all kinds of stuff. So it was all opera and classical music. And I never went to the last night of the proms because the tickets were impossible to get. And my family didn't really have any money to buy those really expensive tickets. But we would always, when the proms were on, he would get the stereo speakers and put them either side of the TV and tune into Radio 3 and have the simultaneous broadcast in stereo from the radio while watching it on TV. So when you grow up on like classical and jazz, it's like a great gateway drug. So yes, I was hugely into the Police when I was a kid as well. But the big melodies, massive melodies. And I also think, growing up in the 70s and the early 80s, it was very, Holst the Planets was in the charts. Most of the TV shows had big classical themes. I remember being a little kid and being in a music class. And I was, there was a show, Andy won't remember it. It was either A Before His Time or he would have been one, called The Oneidian Line, which was about tall ships. And it was a very big show. Yeah. And so we're in class, and the teacher plays the music and says, "Can anybody tell me what this music is?" So every hand, of course, in the class goes up, and she's like, pick somebody at random and like, "Yes, Johnny, what is it?" And Johnny goes, "Oh, it's the music from the Oneidian Line, miss." And all the hands go down except for me. And she's like, "Yes, Warren." I'm like, "That's Spartacus by Katachurian." So I've always been a nerd, and I think if you install the nerdy music side into a kid, no matter what the genre is, it's like it doesn't leave you. You just my dad. It's my dad's fault, and sadly my father died a couple of years ago. But when I did his eulogy, this is getting very personal. But when I did the eulogy at the funeral, I explained all this stuff we're talking about, and some of his friends came up to me afterwards and said, "Thank you. I never really fully understood him." Because he was a very traditional kind of English, probably even European. I know a lot of Germans that are like this as well. My wife's stepfather, who recently died, was an opera singer, and they're very similar personalities. That very European kind of, not really interested in small talk. And everything is like very serious and important. Like my grandfather was like that. Everything was very like, "Oh, have you heard Benjamin Britten's The Latest Spring Symphony? It was conducted by blah, 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 blah." And it's, otherwise there was no like, small talk. It's probably a part of England, Andy, that has gone. I don't know if that exists anymore, but that sort of very, I don't know what to
I
call
think
it.
it got
but-
turned into Weatherspoons or other discount pubs by now, sadly.
Mhm.
That seems to be the most popular thing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
But-
that person. I mean, I can talk about anything and love it, but there's a side of me that's still has that kind of thing. And when I get into the car, I always listen to talk radio. And when I'm off to watch TV, I always watch documentaries. You know, I still have got that old. Like we were talking about. I know it was on camera or off camera. I just love learning. So anything that has a quotient of information that's bringing me closer to like nature or history or something, I'm all about it. I just love that stuff.
Well, Warren, you're about to learn who's gonna get
Please.
buy and borrow and burned this week. Because
Oh,
we
dear.
play a little game.
What a
We
segue.
play a little game where we buy, or we say that we're going to buy one of those pieces of gear that we chose. We're going to burn one, and we're going to borrow one. Don't get
What?
upset. We don't actually burn it. It's just a figure of speech. There are 3 picks. So we have the Audient Evo 16, the Paisley Acoustasonic from Japan Fender,
You can't do this.
and then the
can't.
Baum Guitars Thunder Bass, the best one. So we have to
can't do
decide
this,
between the
Andrew.
3 of us, and also in the live chat, what you would buy, what you would borrow, and what you would burn.
Oh, you
Um,
can't burn any of those 3. What are you doing here?
That's the
tough.
game. That's what makes it interesting. So we've got some stuff from the chat already, guys. We've got Gary O'Neill would buy the Evo, borrow the Japanese Paisley, and burn the bass. But my word, what a strong pick this week. That's very nice. I think he's right. We had a strong threesome this week. Poonin just suggests that Dan should buy a new
Excuse me?
microphone.
We're all in different countries. I'm in America. You're in Austria. Dan, I presume you're in Deutschland.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be difficult. But whatever language you want to use there, you know.
Always space to slip in a double entendre. Okay, Michael would buy the psychedelic Acoustasonic, borrow the Evo, and also therefore burn the bass. Really?
No.
Oh, Michael. Valeria would buy the Evo. Seems like a very cool piece of gear to have. Borrow the Acoustasonic because I've never tried one, and burn that Hello Kitty. Okay, Cranar. Cranar's my friend. He'll help me. Buy the Audient because he needs a new interface desperately. Borrow the Acoustasonic and therefore burn the bass.
Wow.
We don't have too many bass lovers in our chat, obviously.
I was hoping to get someone from Baum Guitars on the show at some point. Now they're never going to talk to me ever again. Okay, seems that the bass is, I think it's by default has to be burnt rather than by choice because there's a third option. But Warren, you and I know each other fairly well. Dan and I normally play this game where we guess what we think the other one's going to do. So, Warren,
I would guess that you're going to put the Evo as the burn because it's safe for you because you have a guitar audience. Let's be honest. You're going to put the bass first because it's your pick, Acoustasonic second, and you're going to guess that it's going to be the Evo just because you know you can get away with that because everybody watching is here for guitars. Am I correct, Dan? Is that what you would have said?
Definitely.
Yep, he's nodding. Yeah, I think we've got you picked. Now you're going to say something different just to be contrary, but let's be honest. It's going to be bass first, guitar second, burn the Evo from you. Yes?
Warren, you are spot on, sir.
Yeah,
Spot
well, Dan
on.
was nodding.
100%.
Oh, no, hang on. No, it's not almost spot. No, you're not spot on. I would buy the Japanese Fender. I would borrow the bass, and
What?
therefore I'd have to burn the Audient, which I don't want to do, but
What
it has
happened?
to be something.
You picked my pick over the bass?
That doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
because I didn't really look at the Fender, and then the more I saw it when you were talking about it, I'm like, yeah. I don't know. No, screw it. Warren, you're right. I'm going to buy the bass. I'm going to buy the bass. I'm going to borrow the Fender.
Because Dan and I were both in agreement.
No, Warren, you are right, sir. Correct. 100%. Top of the class. All that stuff. Magic.
Yeah.
Okay, then Dan, should I never know how this works, the logistics of it.
So
Should
Warren picked for you, now you pick
Yeah.
for me, and I pick for Warren.
Thank you.
That sounds like a good
Right.
idea.
Dan, I believe you would buy the Fender, borrow the bass, burn the Audient.
Wow.
Same as me. No.
No. you said Warren's, right? So you would actually have to. I mean, that was a Freudian slip, 100%. So actually, I think you would go with the Paisley Acoustasonic and would just try the bass. But for the sake of having bomb guitars on our show, let's just stick with that. And you were right. I would buy the Acoustasonic because I'm a sucker for a Japanese guitar. Like I said, I like the design. I think if I would go for an Acoustasonic, it would definitely be that one. And let me just state that I think that Warren made the point about the thin lines and all those guitars that resonate more. I think this will be the next trend. We had a big bubble of offset guitars now being trendy and being on vogue. And I think that those kind of thin liney, semi-hollowish guitars, this will be the next big thing. People playing neo soul and that kind of music on it, but also playing maybe metal. And maybe one of the first signs of that is the EVH, Wolfgang Van Halen. He's got his new semi-hollow kind of guitar that he's playing the Mammoth concerts on. So mark my words, that's the next trend we're going to see.
But the EVH is offset and semi-hollow.
There you go.
Ooh.
It's the bridge. It's the bridge. I like it. I think you're right there, Dan.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I'd like to see some more semi-hollow, thin line stuff coming.
Yep.
Means I have to learn some jazz chords. Oh no.
Adult chords, how Steve Lukather calls it.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a video on YouTube that's called Steve Lukather teaches you adult chords.
Are you going to guess for me?
Yeah. Tough one. Buy the Acoustasonic, assuming that you didn't have one already in your hands.
That's the. I'm going to stop you. That's where you go wrong. You see.
Okay.
Because I do already have one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, you could definitely
I'm
go
helping
for
you
the
out, yeah.
bass. Okay, you go for the bass. You borrow the audio interface, maybe because you need a second one, and you just burn the Fender because you already have one. How's that?
Yes, that's very accurate. Yeah.
Sweet.
Because I already have all the audience. I already have an Acoustasonic. I'm getting the Jaguar one or the Jaguar, and I need I don't have that bass. I want that bass. So I think I'm lucky because I can protect myself because I have two of the three, or at least versions of two of the three products. So.
Oh yeah, that's cheating.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but it's the truth. I mean, you're asking me what I would do. I'm like, doesn't really matter because I love all of those three products. I mean, it's pretty amazing that we got together and all three of those are things I absolutely love. Yeah, I mean, so amazing. Yeah.
Not a fuzz pedal.
Sometimes it's a really contentious stuff, Andy, like something that just like people hate.
Yes. Yeah.
Give me an
It's
example.
often me that chooses the thing that. What did we choose? I don't know. Probably something very, very expensive and very, very niche recently. But yeah. In the chat, people are saying that they're enjoying the semi-hollow guitars, and I think it's time to get to Warren's little bit of the show where we interview the man himself, Mr. Warren Huart.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very, very serious, Warren. No jokes, definitely no entertainment value, just pure information. Or not, or the opposite of that. Yeah, so if anyone's got any questions in the live chat for Mr. Warren Huart, then please stick them in the chat now. We've had a few already, but you have to put them in there again because they've now scrolled up and I can't find them. And I don't have a team of people like Warren does. So,
Yeah. Of course, just saying that.
Apparently it didn't. We won't go into it.
Say no more, say no more.
Thank you, Valeria, for putting the... Yes, if you haven't, please subscribe to Produce Like a Pro. That would be amazing. And if you're from Produce Like a Pro, I see a lot of our community members as well. Go and subscribe to these lovely gentlemen's channels as well.
That would be great.
So let's return the honor, return the privilege of...
Share the love, share the love, share the content, etc.
I'm a big fan of Andy's because we met at TGU. Are they going to do the Gearhead University again? I heard rumors they might be doing it. Is it going to happen or not?
I'm not sure I can say anything about that.
Same here.
Then I will say that I also heard rumors that something might happen. That's
Yeah.
as much as I'm going to say. And Dan, for some reason, Dan's microphone has stopped working at this point of the show, so we'll have to move on to the next topic. Sorry about that, everybody. We had a slight technical issue, which has resulted in a non-answer to Warren's question. So,
Whatever.
Warren, thanks for that, Warren. Warren, I'm going to start the ball rolling by talking about your role that you mentioned earlier as a guitarist, a songwriter, an engineer, and a producer, amongst other things. When you're doing one of those jobs, how do you switch off the other, jobs, the other ways of thinking? Because there's so many different. Those are all different skill sets. And one thing that I've learned from you, or one tiny thing I've learned from you, amongst all the things that I have learned from you, is that you seem to be very good at taking off the guitarist's hat. And then putting on the engineer's hat, but still, understanding the guitar player. So how do you basically compartmentalize all those different skills when you're not doing the other ones? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fantastic question. I am unfortunately going to answer it that I don't see any delineation between any of it. To me, it's all one big thing. So I don't feel like I'm ever having to. I think. The reality is like, going back to what we talked about right from the beginning, the learning part, I still practice guitar every single day. I'm about to start taking some jazz lessons from Gilad, who's one of the greatest jazz guitar players in the world. And I'll do that, I'll practice some stuff with him a couple of hours a week. To me, it's like everything I do, I'm still learning how to engineer. I'm still learning how to produce. I'm still learning all the time. And to me, okay, here's a better analogy. What I love about what we do with the YouTube world is now everything's connected. So when I work with an artist, I can see a much, much bigger picture. I can go, hey, you're really good at doing, this genre or that genre. That's first part of the production piece. But then I might say, hey, you're a great shredding guitar player. Why don't I introduce you to a guitar company that will help promote your new album? So this is something that didn't exist before. I also know publishing companies and record companies and managers and all kinds of different stuff. This wasn't the business when I moved to America in the late 90s. In the late 90s, everything was very like cool bands wouldn't want to be associated with gear companies unless it was like really, really super cool. Everything was like gear companies were trying to work with musicians, but musicians were super resistant because it was selling out. Now it's just one big business. It's one huge business, whether it be right at the top from the Tomans and the Sweetwaters all the way down to like the everything in between. So it doesn't matter. It's all one big business now. We're all working together, whether it be getting music into film and TV, whether it be the equipment we use, whether it be the production, the songwriting, the whatever the heck it is, it's all connected now. And so for me, that's a pretty long answer, but I just, when I produce, it's all one big thing. I'm an average piano player, a terrible drummer, but if it's got strings on it, I can play it, pretty much anything with strings on. So I can always think outside of the box with that. And I've also been blessed to grow up wanting to play classical and jazz, discovering heavy rock, going off into prog, and then, no, I don't talk about this much, but in the late 80s, when I first started doing music professionally, I was a DJ, and I was DJing electronic dance music, as we now call it. But I was DJing dance music all the way through the 90s till I got back into bands and moved to America. So I feel very, very blessed to sort of like be submerged in everything. And so I don't do any delineation, because if you play something I love, I can reference Herbie Hancock, or I can reference Left Field, or I can reference Queen, or it doesn't really matter to me. It's all one big melting pot of music. But then again, I'm also blessed to not be specific with one genre. I think there's lots of people probably watching, if they produce, that probably are able to make a living in one genre. That's never been my thing. I've always been all about, mixing everything together, which I think is how you grow,
Mm-hmm. Actually, could you give us some of your credits? Because I know that Dan and I know some of the work you've been involved with, but maybe someone who's new to you may not know exactly who you are and what you've done. So some of your credits are quite outstanding.
Oh, thank you. Like a farmer, outstanding
field.
in his field.
That answers the question about what's the best joke you've ever heard. There we go.
That guy's a real farmer. Really? Outstanding in his field. Yeah, there's like such bad English dad jokes.
I miss you, Warren. I miss you.
I just remember, like, you know, we lived in a tiny little house, like this 584 square feet. I don't know what that is in meters anymore, but tiny little house. And when we had the grandparents come over for like Boxing Day dinner or something like that, it was completely packed, like 8 people, and you couldn't move. And my dad would always do the cooking for Sundays or the Boxing Days or the big dinners. He would always cook. And I remember he brought in like the gravy, and it had mushrooms in it. And he just came in and put it on the table and said, "Not mushroom in here." And it was just like such an English dad thing to say. And I think I've realized I've become that person. I'm now a dad and I'm English. So I suppose hence my jokes. Anyway,
you can't escape it.
Nope.
Oh my God, my mother's calling me.
Oh.
My
You need
mother
to
is
answer
calling me.
You need to.
I think I do
I
actually
don't mind
have
if you
to
need.
answer.
Do you want to pop off for a second?
Can I just mute myself?
Of course.
Of course, I can mute you. Yeah, I've muted you, Warren.
How cool is that?
Whilst you talk to your mum, which is there is nothing more important than that. So, I mean, I'm sure I can talk about Warren in this way and say that to get an answer straight out of Warren is quite difficult because he's such a wonderful storyteller and has so much information.
All right, I think he's back. Is he back? He was waving.
He's frozen. Warren, are you with us, sir? I think he's muted himself also. He's definitely unmuted on my side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna call my
Warren,
I'm gonna call
there
my
you go.
I'm gonna call my mum back. I was,
All right,
of course,
okay,
trying
good.
to speak. I couldn't take the call anyway because it's all assigned to go through this, and this, and she's like, "I can't hear you," and all
right.
sort of stuff. So.
All right.
So-
okay.
We could
But,
have had her on the show. Oh,
Yeah, that would just send her the link.
My mother we would have been here for a long time trying to get that link working. Yeah, I'll give her a call back immediately afterwards.
All right, sweet.
But
so
yeah,
Warren,
it's, carry on.
your body of work. Run us through
yes.
some of your highlights, please, sir.
Okay, so I was in several bands. I had a whole bunch of record deals, both in the UK and in the US. In the UK, I suppose the most memorable one is I had a band called Star 69, and we did have one top 40 hit called Mama Don't Let. And then I played Reading Rock Festival, which was fun. We opened up the stage that the Foo Fighters played on. Not opened up, but we're on early. So that was fun. I played Roskilde. I've done like a lot of European stuff. And ran studios, was an engineer, worked in music stores. I worked in Kingfisher Music and Anderton's. I actually worked in Anderton's while I was playing music. So I've always I've been professionally making money as a musician since I was 16. Time at 16. Club bands, doing covers, always done music. And then I moved to America with Star 69. We did an album here with Don Smith, who had done Kerosene Hat by Cracker, as well as doing Tom Petty and a whole bunch of Expensive Winos with Keith Richards and everything. And it's been it's always been what I've done. So musically, production wise, I was producing bands all the time I was in England, and all the time I've been in Los Angeles. But the bigger credits came when I stepped outside and started collaborating on a lower level. And this is why I always tell people, if you want to, you can be the big time producer if you want in isolation. But my best credits and what got me into it was like when I got a manager and you know, the phone wasn't ringing for Warren Hewitt to produce their records because nobody knew who I was and I didn't have any credits. But he called me one day and said, Dave Sardi needs a Pro Tools engineer. And he said, he needs a Pro Tools engineer. Do you want to do it? And I was like, great. I was like, what's the next record? And it was the Thrills. So I was the Pro Tools engineer on the Thrills' second record, Let's Bottle Bohemia. Then I did where is it? Hot Heat, their second record. Am I mixing up Thrills and what's the Thrills album called? No, that was Let's Bottle Bohemia. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I have a platinum record from Ireland, which was a big deal for me because my mother's family's Irish. So my father's family's Dutch and English. So it was great. I like getting ones from countries, you know, alternate countries that I can claim as nationalities. It's always good having an Irish mum because then then when England, as you know, Andy, was sucking at football. Remember when Jack Charlton was managing Ireland and they got to the quarterfinals of the World Cup? It was like, hey, I can be Irish. We didn't even qualify that year.
What year was
Do you remember
that?
those days? It was
Barely.
90s. Yeah, you'd have been a kid, but it was.
Yeah,
we
I
didn't
would
qualify.
have been sucking at guitar at that point. So yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and now of course you run the Produce Like a Pro YouTube channel, which is.
Yeah. But I'll give you the name drops.
Oh yeah,
So-
here we go.
So as an engineer, so Frey, I did the first two Frey records. So How to Save a Life was recorded at my studio. We did the drums in like 20 minutes, drove it down to Scream where Mark Endert was mixing, dropped it in, and the rest is history. So that was a huge, massive hit. At one stage, it was the most downloaded song of all time. Still one of the most highest streamed, over 1 billion streams. So I did that. Then I did the second Frey album. I did Aerosmith's last record. I've done some James Blunt stuff, which I play guitar on, and that we had a big hit with a song called "I'll Be Your Man." Other big artists, I suppose, done up till the last one, but 3 Ace Frehley records. I've done all kinds of stuff. Sometimes it's hard to remember. Yeah, and Bruno said, yeah, Ireland qualified for the USA '94. So yeah, I said mid-90s. There you go, '94. It's the year that England didn't qualify, I think, or if they did qualify, they got knocked out right at the beginning. But anyway, back to the point. So lots of bigger records like that. Mattis Yahoo. I did the rock version of One Day, which was actually the one that was a radio hit, but he refused to put it on the album, which was very annoying. But it did sell the albums. You remember that One Day? It was the theme tune for the Olympics, I think. And I'm looking around to try and remember. James, Howie, Mattis, Frey, Augustana, did some big stuff with Augustana, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, so lots of the bigger records. And then, of course, like fun stuff, like I did Black Veil Brides Alive and Burning album, which is also a Blu-ray and a DVD, which was the biggest selling Blu-ray DVD of that year. Music one, obviously. Ramones, I did a Ramones live DVD, Blu-ray, Chili Peppers live Blu-ray DVD. And I did a Joe
when you say
Strummer.
you did it, what did you do on those live DVDs?
Well, some of them I recorded and mixed, and some of them I just mixed. But I had a spate, which is a really good thing. I suggest to people do a lot of live recording and live mixing is stuff that people really sort of pathologically hate, but it's a great way to whet your appetite. You know, I was going to ask what my motivation to Hervig says to move to California. It was because I was in a band and we wanted to come over and record an album here. But yeah, so a lot of that's cool because I get Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros. I did my friend Dick Rude. I don't know if anybody knows him. He did a bunch of movies with Alex Cox and Joe Strummer. So I'm friends with him, and so we did some stuff with Joe, which was huge because growing up, obviously, as a Clash fan. So yeah, lots of like a mixture of like huge, like big Frey when they were like the biggest band in the world, mixed in with all the credible kind of cool, you know, the Joe Strummers and Ramones and stuff like that. Yeah.
Don't you also have a Scrubs Laszlo Bain story? Zach Braff.
Well, I mean, I didn't record that, but the studio I'm in was Chad's story. Was Chad's studio. So that he did. He recorded. You know, I'm no Superman here, because I bought his house. He was the drummer on my first record in LA, and it was the first weekend I was in Los Angeles, and he said to me, he said to me, he goes, "Oh, I'm having a barbecue on Sunday. You want to come by?" And I was like, "Sure." So I come by his house, which is the house I'm in now, you know, come over, and it's like has a studio, and everybody's jamming. And I remember I'm here, first weekend I'm in LA, and I come in the studio, and Sheryl Crow's sitting in there. Jeff, you know, her guitar player is in there. Dan Rothschild, who was playing with Fiona Apple, I think at the time. No, he was in that band Tonic. You know, if you could only see the way she loves me, great song. And it was just ridiculous. All these musicians, and I'm just like, there in the corner, like, you know, and there's all these like Grammys and platinum records surrounding me. It was like pretty insane. But I remember this little house, and I remember thinking to myself, it wasn't little. It's little when you live in America, but for guys like us, you know, Europeans, it's just a normal small person lives in, and it's up in the canyon, it's surrounded by trees. And I grew up in the countryside. You grew up in the countryside, didn't you?
I did. I'm still there, just a different one.
Yeah, just a different one. So this is what I did. Yeah, so I remember going, I want to buy this one day. So I bought it, and I got the studio in here, and the rest is history.
Sweet.
Well, we're going to need a shovel and a big bucket for all those names that were just dropped, but they were dropped with style, with class, and yeah, there's some.
Oh, Chris is here. Hey, Chris.
Oh, we'll drop another one. Chris Barocci. Hey, Chris Barocci in the chat. Nice to see you last week at the Steve Vai show. Yeah, so, I mean, Dan, have you got any like guitar production questions, any burning questions you had lined up for Warren?
Not burning questions in regard to production, but obviously with such a body of work, how did you form the decision to kind of jump on the YouTube train in, I think, 2014 and kind of come up with your own Produce Like a Pro content up there?
It was weird. It's a good question, because I was actually financially at the peak. I mean, it was like those couple of years around, just before and just after, where I was making the most amount of money I'd ever made in music. And it was actually, I'll credit it was Tim Pierce. Tim Pierce had a channel. He was one of the first people on it. And I was doing a session with him over at his house, and he was tracking guitars on a song. And he was like, "Oh, you should check out what I'm doing on YouTube." And then he introduced me to Marty Schwartz, who at that point was huge, still is huge. And he said, "You should do some YouTube stuff." And I didn't have any way to monetize or I didn't even put ads on my videos for the first 2 years. Then people were like, "Why aren't you putting ads?" Now I don't have any choice, because I do so much cover material and stuff that I have ads on every single one of my videos. Every time I do a video about an artist, that gets demonetized and they take the money. But the thing is, I'm a producer for a living, so I don't really care. Because if the artist gets paid, you're not going to hear me complaining about demonetizing, because they get paid, and then they give me money to produce their records.
Yeah,
that's the way it works, you know. And
Sneaky.
We can't have it both ways, can we? We can't go, "I hate how much Spotify isn't paying artists," but you can't demonetize my video. I need to take the money from the song that I'm featuring. You know, to me, that makes no sense. With this business, we need artists to get fed and make money. That's why whenever I'm working with people, I'm always trying to figure out some way that I can get them paid for the art that they do. You know, yeah. So I have no problem. I always say to people when they watch a video and said, "There was 5 ads I had to watch on your video about Kate Bush." I'm like, "So Kate Bush made some money. And you know what? She wrote the song. And that's the reason why you're watching my video, because of her song, not because you want to see my charming face." You know, maybe Andy, it's different. People are tuning in to see the afro. Like, you know,
it's all about the smile.
The afro has its own YouTube channel. If it doesn't, it should.
You know, when people have Instagram accounts for their pets, I should do one for my hair.
I have a friend,
Warren, you have a nice head of hair yourself, my friend. And
well, it's a total mess, and it's whatever I woke up with, and it's interesting how, you know.
Oh yeah.
If you're gonna troll me, it's always. If you're going to troll me, it's always based on the hair. It's pretty funny, and it's no accident when you go and click on that person. It's always a dude, and they're always bald.
I haven't thought of going. I'm not going to go in that rabbit hole, but I might at some point if I'm lonely and cold. Yeah, well, I guess maybe we could give away some nuggets if you don't mind, Warren. Like, we talked about the Evo 16 piece of gear for recording. Could you give some like some insight into like home recording. We talked about demos, and I started with a dictaphone. Should have used my finger, and
Is that another double entendre?
that was, yeah. I used the dictaphone. Maybe if someone's watching or listening, if they buy the Evo 16, that's not all it is. It's all the gear and no idea. What can they do to start recording guitar with these pieces of gear?
I like that.
Would be
That's
your-
all the gear with no idea.
Yeah, that's what you get on my
You're
channel.
a poet.
But I was
you
not
are
aware
a poet.
of the fact.
I cannot believe how poetically poetic you are.
Thank you. I'll take the credit. Yeah, what tips could you give to us guitar players for actually getting those guitars recorded and then becoming worldwide rock stars?
Well, I mean, in which order? Worldwide, to become a worldwide rock star?
Well, let's say that comes from being great at music and recording great songs and just being consistently hardworking and lucky, I guess. So how do they take that step from making that great song into a great recording?
I think you answered the question right by that great ideas thing. I mean, really, sometimes people send me songs they want me to produce, and I listen to it, and I'm like, the production's amazing. Is the recording amazing? Not necessarily. Production's amazing. And one of the valuable lessons I learned from moving from the UK to America was when I came over in the 90s. It was a pretty horrible music industry over here. Not the quality of the music, don't get me wrong. We had grunge, we had these incredible, there was a lot of really great girl songwriters. Sarah McLachlan was huge when I moved out here. Jewel, and they were all amazing writers. But the rock stuff was very, very generic. We'd sort of moved into this where it was like there's some production on every song. It was like left, right guitars, really super heavy. The verse was all like bass and drums, and then the chorus would come in, it'll be super loud, and all the kick and snare had the same drum sample. It was all being mixed by the same couple of guys and all being produced by the same couple of guys, and it was pretty horrific. I'm not saying there wasn't some good songs. Amy Mann, yes, another great artist from that period.
Heck yes.
And I didn't really fully realize what was going on in America because in the UK where I was from, obviously, I would produce an artist, my own band often, and I'd take it into a label, and they would, if they signed it, they would maybe remix it. We did have one song, our first single from Star 69. They attempted to remix it and then listened to our original quote unquote demo and said, that sounds better, and put that out. There was never this sort of like business kind of thing. And when I got to America, it was all about the business. And sometimes that's okay because maybe they'll clean up the recording and make it louder and more powerful and all this kind of stuff. But most of the time, what they were doing was removing all of the soul and everything from the recording. So as much as I want to talk about production, I think that there's a confusion between engineering and production. Great production doesn't mean perfectly recorded and super clean and millions of dollars thrown at it. Great production can be, Working Class Hero. Or Bob Marley, Redemption Song. They're both really cheaply, very quickly, very easily recorded songs that are two of the greatest songs ever written because they have an emotional quote in that we all respond to. They have lyrics that mean something. And I think that all of us, myself included, get carried away sometimes with the gear side of it. And I think we had that conversation when we were talking about the pluses of the Evo. And the reality is like there's so much affordability now in equipment. Spend all your time, do some quick research, buy a mic like we're both using because we both know they're great mics. We love Lewitt. There are other companies as well, just coincidental. We both love the mics. Buy a Lewitt that you can afford. Buy the cheapest, decent quality interface you can afford. Now spend the rest of your life trying to get into getting your art together, get your creativity and your songwriting. That's the best advice I can give you. I get sent stuff all the time that I'm afraid to recut it because I can tell, wow, this is good. Or, God, they missed the mark. They overproduced it and they lost the song. Right. So make it about the song first and the rest will come. And yeah, maybe it is a remix. Yes, Chris, my arm is doing so much better now. Thank you. Yeah, so definitely, I'm so used to doing the live streaming thing and answering the questions in the middle of the conversation. Sorry. But Yeah, I mean, I love equipment. I love gear. I love gear. I love it, and I can answer you what I. But I think if you're a beginner, buy some inexpensive gear and spend your whole life, your time and energy writing better songs, getting better production ideas, but not confusing expensive equipment with production. That's engineering. Your production ideas are sometimes throwing a mic on the ground in front of the drum kit and getting the coolest drum sound you've ever heard. Recording guitars in the next room. I remember once when I was selling recording equipment, I think I was at Anderton's at the time, and somebody came into me and said, I can't get the guitar to sound like it does in my room because it always sounds bad. And I said, well, where are you listening? I go, well, I'm playing my guitar at the edge of my live room, my bedroom, or whatever it is, and it sounds amazing. And I said, well, where are you putting the mic? And they said, on the speaker. I was like, try putting the mic where you're standing. It's just, it's stuff that seems really obvious and simple. Yeah. You don't get because you watch a video with some idiot like me showing you how to put a 57 on a cone, but you like the sound of the guitar in the room. So wherever you're standing in the room, put the mic. It's stuff like that. One of the biggest pieces of advice I could ever give anybody is trust your ears. People send me stuff all the time to critique, and 99.9% of the time I don't have the time because I've got 50 sitting in my inbox this morning already. And the thing is, the occasional time that it times out perfectly, or there's somebody that's an Academy member, I'll listen to it, and then I'll email them back and say, "What do you think?" before I tell you what I think. And they'll say, "Oh, it's too bassy, and the second verse guitar is too distorted." And they're like, "What do you think?" And I say, I'd be like, "What do you think I think?" It's too bassy and the second verse guitar is too distorted. It's like you've got to trust your own ears. There's too much talking heads, ourselves included, that sometimes take away from trusting your own abilities. The more you trust what you hear, the faster you'll grow. There's too much mumbo jumbo, and there's too many experts, trying to make it confusing. It's I love the old school guys that are like, man, I set my attack and release, I feel, man, to be in time with the song. And of course, I immediately respond, what happens if there's a 16th note rest between this kick? Now your release time is totally different. It's all right if the beat is boom, cat, boom, cat, boom, cat, boom, cat, and those are the only transes. Of course, you're going to set your attack and release like that. But as soon as then the kid spends hours trying to do that tip that they heard from this really famous guy, and they're like, I can't get it because their groove is da ga, and so the release time is now flattening the next transient. Like, I can't get it to do like Joe Famous told me. I'm taking a name of somebody without offending anybody. You know what I mean? There's too much mumbo jumbo. There's too much and it used to be, I remember Brian Karlstrom, God rest his soul. He engineered Dirt by Alice in Chains, which is one of my favorite records, and was produced by Dave Jordan, one of my oldest friends. And Brian said to me, he goes, I got to be a better engineer when I got better equipment. And I think that's a pretty honest answer. He was just as creative before and after. He just had better equipment to work with. Mm-hmm. And I think that, cut yourself some slack as a creative. Anybody who's watching this, just cut yourself some slack. I know there's so much, blah, 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 diminished scale over a so-and-so, flatten 5, blah, 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 using this mic and the so-and-so, blah, 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 forum post, whatever. And yet nobody that we admire thinks that way. Nobody. You talk to Brian May, he plays a blues scale mixed in with a diatonic major and moves between the two. And yet he wrote guitar solos that we could all sing. But I know plenty of people that could out-theory him that have never written a melody in their life that you would even want to remember. So it's all about balance. I love learning. Please learn, but don't put yourself down because, the best songs in the world were written by teenagers. I always say this, and I'll repeat it again. Jeff Emmerich was 19 years old, turning 20 when he engineered Revolver, which is in most people's top 2 greatest albums of all time. So if a 19-year-old kid can record arguably the greatest album of all time, cut yourself some slack. He didn't have any. He was second engineering. He was like running for tea, marking off stuff, setting up mics. And the next minute he has to record like Taxman. It's like Dave Sardi said to me, he's when people had budgets, he goes, goes, the best advice he ever got was earn as you learn. You know, if you get paid to do a job, you're always learning. Don't come in with any kind of superior ideas, because you're always going to learn. And I personally always learn more from the artists than they learn from me, because they'll come in. I mean, I work with teenage girls. What do I know about being a teenage girl? A big fat whopping nothing. So if I'm writing a song with them, I'm not going to be writing their lyrics.
Yeah.
I can't. Hey, let's write about TikTok. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. I'm not going to I don't know their experience, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to be open. Our job as producers and songwriters and musicians is to interpret what artists bring us. You know, whether it be co-writing with them, producing them, or playing guitar on their music, whatever our chosen field is or combination thereof. You just have to listen to the artist, and the skill is to bring that out of them, bring out great performances. Yeah, as Pooh Ninja, the great Pooh Ninja said, never stop learning. Does anybody know who Pooh Ninja really is? Because he's on everybody's channel. Who are you, Pooh Ninja?
Nobody knows.
Andy, is it your alter ego? Does anybody see him typing at the same time?
I think they've never been in the same room, right?
Never.
Yeah, Pooh Ninja and they are, but they're always in the same room. That's
There you go. Yeah.
Warren, you and I have spent hours in conversation since we've met, and that has been my favorite.
probably too much of me talking.
No, I really enjoyed everything you had to say about music there. That was really, I don't care if anyone ever listens to this show or watches this show. That was really enjoyable just for me. Yeah, I mean, we're coming up to the end of the show,
You're
and
amazing.
I know that every time I ask you a question, it's gonna, give us another half an hour of show. But I do have a question, and that is regarding people that have learned what we've just been talking about, and engineering and more the practical side of it. People that have learned those skills from a school, and people that have learned those skills from doing them in a recording studio. Those are two different types of people to work with, and I come from the school of doing rather than the school of learning.
Yeah.
I'm at loggerheads with people who have learned from a school. So when you talked about putting the mic, think it might sound good rather than put it where you were shown. Have you ever come across any people that have learned methods in school and then refused to budge from that education, and then you've managed to crack them open?
Yeah,
I mean,
I've got a couple of instances. Yeah. One of the ones was I had a new guy who was interning or assisting, and a new person. I actually don't remember. I just remember the instance. I can't remember specifically who it is because it was a few years ago. But it's a really good illustration of what you're talking about. And I was tracking. I was producing, so it was vocals, and I was leaning in and giving the singer notes. And it had clipped on a tape twice. So like two little red marks. Mm-hmm. And I lean over, and in the middle of the take, they had clicked it down like 5 dB on the mic pre. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, well, it clipped twice. Who cares? You have now just completely altered the gain structure in the middle of a vocal. I'm going to have to go back and gain all that up. And not only am I going to have to gain it up, the mic pre was being hit at a certain kind of amplitude that was giving me a certain sound, and now it no longer sounds the same. And he's like, well, when I was at school, they told you couldn't have any digital clipping. I'm like, dude, it was two transients like that. Nobody is going to hear that. But that's where, but I think what happens is like people are taught to look out for these things, and they take it too literal. But the only way they're going to learn is in practical experience anyway. So all the guys and girls that we've had come in that have been schooled, professionally and have gone and got degrees or something of the like, or done those kinds of things, do come in with a lot of preconceived ideas. But it does get beaten out of them in the nicest possible way. But there's a balance. They do come in with some practical experience, which I think is really good. Some pragmatic experience. Sorry, and then they learn the practical. After a while, it's a balance between the two.
Sure. Thank you, Warren. I guess we have a final question, which is from Valeria, one of our moderators, and she has a question that says, "Very boring, my bad," but I don't think it is boring. It's asking for advice for a beginner mixing vocals and any tips on how to get the correct balance between vocal levels compared to music.
That's really nice. Well, it depends on the track. If you're doing it over a vocal, and if you're doing a vocal over an acoustic guitar, you'll use significantly less compression because you don't need the vocal to be super up front, and you also don't want it to sound like ultra squashed. Everything we do is relative to the other sounds. So if you're working on a vocal and it's in a really super dense track, which is like a hard-hitting rock track, then that vocal is probably going to be a lot more compressed than it would be over an acoustic guitar or piano. And it's all incremental. If you compress the piano really heavily, so everything's like pang, 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 then the vocal's going to have to be compressed as well, because that piano is like taking up so much room. So it's all really, Deja's saying it's genre dependent. Yeah, it's song dependent as well as genre dependent, because obviously, you can, it's a combination of all those things. Just if we take away the genre for a second, it's just song dependent. Like, what is going on in the song? Is it a small amount of instrumentation that's very, very dynamic, or is it a very, very dense track? And if it's super, super dense, then you are going to need to compress it quite heavily to bring it forward and consistently. Now, if you can, the great thing about DAWs, modern DAWs, is you don't need to use compression as aggressively as you used to, say, in the 70s. And that's a whole tangent here that I'm going to make really, really quick. Everybody tells me that music is more compressed now than it was in the 70s. I've worked with Jack Douglas and Shelley Yakus and Jay Messina and all of the best engineers and producers of the 70s. And they will always make me compress far more than I ever would in this day and age. And if you open up an Aerosmith track or a John Lennon track from the mid-70s or anything recorded that turn, it is like a blob of everything. There was a lot of compression. They're compressing really heavily going to tape. The tape is adding compression, transients are being rolled off. It's then going back in and being compressed and EQ'd again in a mix stage. And there's a lot of compression bringing that stuff forward. If you listen to some of the Motown stuff, it's amazing just how aggressively compressed and even saturated it is going in with all those tubes and transformers and compressors. So, it's really important to understand what you are doing compared with the song. So does the song want that vocal to be super compressed, or does it want somewhere in the middle? The great thing about DAWs is now in nanoseconds you can automate. Something that was very, very difficult to do for many, many decades is now so easy. So if you've got a pretty even recorded vocal and you've got a nice open sounding, track, use automation before you even use a compressor. But a compressor is a quick and easy way of bringing a vocal forward in a much more dense track. Again, it's all dependent on the instrumentation around.
Excellent advice.
Thank you. I hope that helps. And anybody else who might have some similar problems, questions, or learning experiences.
I have one last question. If Warren Huart was a chord, what chord would you be?
The Hendrix chord, of course.
Wow.
Isn't everybody? Yeah, E7 augmented ninth. Oh, I'm going to get you demonetized. I'll get banned. So
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, the Hendrix Foundation afternoon.
There's another. That's it.
No. Not with that. They'll be knocking on my door. Let alone closing the channel down. That was a good question, Dan. Where did that one come from? I need to ask that. And every person I ever talked to now.
I don't know. Sometimes when I have some job interviews, I'll ask people if they were an instrument, what instrument would they be and why? So I was just thinking, with
I know what I'd be. I mean, I'm always I always say I like a guitar that has like two pickups, no binding. No, I'm a no frills kind of guy. I like things that, you know what I mean? Like I just did this video. I'm going to shout out. I did this video and it is no bullshit. This is my favorite guitar that I own.
What is
$499. It's the Revstar. They gave it to me to try out and said, if you want it, you can keep it, which is amazing. And I thought I did a live stream on Instagram. And they strategically took off where it was made on the back.
Sneaky.
Okay.
And I did a live Instagram, and I didn't know anything about it. And I'm playing it like totally in love. It's got a matte finished neck, chambered body. And I just assumed it was the Japanese one because I've got the old Japanese one that I got, which was $1,500. So I assumed this was the new Japanese model. And I'm playing it on the Instagram. And everybody's like, wow, it sounds so beautiful. What model is it? And I'm like, it's a ISE 20, and everybody goes, "That's the Element. That's the budget series." And I was like, "It is." And then somebody says, "Yeah, retails like $700, and Sweetwater is selling for $499." So my favorite playing guitar is $500. So that's what I am. To me, it's just like I don't want to be, I don't want to be that. You say instrument, I would not be a Les Paul with the binding and the pearl inlays and all the engraving. This is me. This is what I like. You know what I mean? It just playable, sounds great. Yeah. So that's what would you be, Andy? What instrument would you be?
Bagpipes. Because no one's quite sure how to make it work. No one really enjoys it that much, but for some reason they put up with it several times a year. And, that would be me.
Dr. Dan?
Probably a old blues guitar with rusty strings on them. Yeah. It gets you that dry, very, very compressed, but also very warm tone. Or maybe mahogany made, a little bit rusty strings, narrow body, not too much room. Very, very precise in the projection. Yeah. But still old school.
Good.
Yeah. What about you guys in the chat? What guitar or instrument would you guys be? Let us know. That'll be interesting.
Ninja
Who
would
works
be a
at Ibanez?
hurdy-gurdy with a theremin.
Nah, and Pooh Ninja would be a Pia.
Who works at Ibanez? Somebody says the guy who works at Ibanez.
It's me.
Oh, you work at Ibanez?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So I'm talking Yamaha with an Ibanez guy. Oh, ouch.
Well, this show is not related at all to my daytime job, but I'm an Ibanez guy since 32 years now. So it was my first like real guitar, and I still have a big collection and some very precious instruments. I love talking about guitars, but even more precisely about Ibanez guitars. I know a lot of the story. I like to geek out with people like Phil and Andy and Henning and all those guys. But still, like deep inside my heart, I'm not an electric player. I'm probably a like bonfire acoustic player who sings "Me and the Devil" blues, for instance. Yeah.
Well, next time we have a bonfire, I'll bring my bagpipes and we can duet.
All right. And I'll
we can play Wonderwall together and
I doodle Wonderwall on the bagpipes. My doodle sack.
on the bagpipes.
Doodle sack, yeah.
That sounds like hell.
It does.
Definition,
It does.
definition of hell. Wonderwall played on bagpipes.
I'm going to ask you to produce that. We're going to record that. I'm asking you to produce it.
Can I produce it
on
with
this
earplugs in? Can I do it with earplugs in?
You can have nose plugs if you want. Yeah, so...
Stop, Andy. I know where you're going.
Right.
Carry on.
Gary O'Neill would be in AZS, the Josh Smith, but in blue.
Okay.
Cranar would be a Telly with a P90 pickup. Oh, classy and creamy. Love it.
Yep.
Pooh Ninja just wrote Ibanez.
Good choice.
3 good choices.
Yeah.
Todd would be a Les Paul Jr. He's very simple. I can relate to that. Sean
I like
Hockey
all
would
of
be a
these.
Solar. Yeah, they're all good choices.
They're all like exactly what we're talking about. Just simple, functional, do the job. You have a good audience. I like this. I relate to this.
We do. We have a wonderful audience, and we welcome them back every week. But that is the end of the show, ladies and gentle spoons. So, yeah, I had a lovely time talking to you, Warren. Thanks. It's
It's amazing. It's been a long time coming. We
Yeah,
tried to do this like 6 months ago.
we finally got it, and of course we'll have you back again at some point, and maybe we'll meet again at NAMM next year, or you'll come over to Europe and we can have a knees up and a shindig.
Yeah, and you're going to go to the Mannheim thing, aren't you?
Yeah, be a guitar summit.
Are you coming?
I don't know. I think September's too soon for me. I'm going to. I think I'm going to England and the UK in October.
Okay.
And maybe again in November. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. And then there's so many. I used to, before the pandemic, traveling is an understatement. We traveled abroad 17 times in 1 year in 2019. We went to Music China. We went to Lyon, Paris, Saint-Etienne, Rome, Łódź, Warsaw, Krakow, London, then New York for AES. Vienna. I mean, it was insane. So we usually travel a lot and do a lot of these things abroad, and it's an incredible experience. But pandemic hit, and it's really weird to go from always being in a different country. So when people say to me they think I'm still in England, they think I still sound relatively English. It's because I don't really, for one point in my life, I wasn't really living in any one country for long enough to get too assimilated. But because of the lovely Dan Pemick, I've been here for 2 straight years.
Mm.
Well, your accent hasn't changed, which is reassuring. Thank you for that.
And the same for you. But I suppose being surrounded by Austrians, it's not like you're hearing like an American English or anything like that.
No, I just put in words that aren't part of the English language into my general speak, and then and on the flip side into the German language also.
Indeed.
But they're probably more used to that because I understand German, ish enough. And it's quite funny to hear like a whole German phrase with like 3 English words thrown in. I remember talking to, our mutual friend Charlie about this because she said there's just some words that there's no translation for. So she'll be like talking German, rehearsal, German, recording studio, German, German, backstage, just things that there's
Got
only
that
English
reference.
words for.
Yeah.
I understood that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. People that watched live, thank you so much for joining us. People that are listening to the podcast audio version, Dan's going to ask a little favor of you. Dan.
Of course. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, make sure to give us a 5-star rating or a nice review so we can get more people like the amazing Warren Huart on the show and bring you some quality guitar content and dad jokes and much more. Thank you very much.
Especially me for the dad jokes.
Yeah.
Just
Warren,
before the
thank
show,
you.
I was telling Andy one.
Yeah.
Do you want me to? No.
The first one, but
The
not
first,
the
the first, not the
second
second one. Yeah, the first one was.
Second
quite
was
nice.
so bad I almost didn't reply.
Yeah, like two men. They are having a chat, and then one guy says, "You know what? I think I'm going to date a French girl because they are cute and I like the accent." And then the other one says, "Are you silly? You don't even speak a single word French." And then the other one says, "Touché." I'm sorry, it's a bad one. It's a really bad one.
Pretty
Touché.
bad.
Yeah, I know.
That's
But it's
really,
not
really
the worst
bad.
one.
What I'm worried about is that people don't understand it.
No?
Okay.
Okay, well,
Well, there's a little bit of homework to go with the show
Yeah.
as well then. A little
check
bit of
out
homework.
what touché means.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for telling that joke. Anyways,
It doesn't
Thanks
mean
so
the
much.
punchline. That's the joke. I think that's the point. Because it would make more sense if you said "c'est la vie" for it to be literal, but because it doesn't, it's not. Because it's not literal. That's what makes it funny. Do you understand what I mean?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But that's the point. With Americans, quite often, I love like Oscar Wilde jokes, and I'll tell them, and I can sometimes see them looking at me like, ah. like in Oscar Wilde's world, he was being a famous playwright, of course, he would always be surrounded by socialites and stuff like that, and he hated them. He absolutely hated these British socialites. He was also Irish as well, for those who don't know. And there's a very famous story of him being at a party, and this particular socialite woman comes up to him and goes, "Oh, Oscar, I passed by your door yesterday." And he goes, "Good." And I have explained that joke 100 times. Like, why is that funny? I'm like, because they didn't stop. They passed by the door. He says, "Good." Or what's the Churchill one? The socialite woman says to him,
If you were my husband, I'd lace your drink with poison. And if you were my wife,
and if you were my wife, I'd drink it.
Right,
boy.
gents, let's leave it there before we dismantle any more of our humor. Warren, thank you so much for your time. Oh yeah, happy birthday!
Happy
to
birthday, Amanda. Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Your
birthday to you. Happy birthday,
birthday,
dear
Amanda.
Amanda. Terrible timing between all of us. Happy
Happy birthday
birthday to you, and many more.
Nice.
Oh,
all right,
there you go.
everybody. Thank you. That is our show. Good night. Take care of yourselves.
Super.
Bye bye.
So long, farewell.
Stories Podcast, your number one show for everything guitar.